Today in this show, we're going to be talking about Renee Montoya. If you didn't know that she went from being just a member of the Gotham Police Force to a pillar in the Batman mythos, then this show is for you. So Renee Montoya, her first appearance wouldn't actually be in comics, it would be in a cartoon, in Batman the Animated Series, in Season 1, Episode 6.
Why don't you reserve judgment until you've heard what Officer Montoya has to say?
All right, let's have your version.
Like I said before, we got there on time. Bullock was down.
Obviously, the show is not about cartoons, it is about comics. So in the comics, she would first appear in Batman 475 in 1992. The Cataclysm crossover was followed up by something called No Man's Land, where all of Gotham was shut off from the rest of the US. And Renee Montoya was one of the few police force members to stay behind to help Commissioner Gordon maintain the peace. I'm working on a No Man's Land video to come out in December, but what you need to take note of right now in terms of Renee Montoya in No Man's Land is that she would become involved with Two-Face and he would fall in love with her. Eventually, Gotham would be reopened to the rest of the world thanks to the humanitarian efforts led by Lex Luthor. Gotham Central would eventually come about, a series in which Montoya was a main character, and Two-Face had fallen head over heels for her. So he believed the only way to have Montoya for himself was to ruin everything for her. Two-Face would out her as a lesbian to the public, then frame her for murder, and then kidnap her to make it look like she'd gone on the run. And Two-Face would become more and more unstable as this went on, and eventually Montoya would have to be saved by Batman. Two-Face would be locked in Arkham and Montoya would be reinstated as a police officer and all the charges would be dropped. But there was some backlash. You see, her parents were really religious, and Montoya was a lesbian, and the whole world knew it. So her parents disowned her. In Wargames, Montoya would be working with Crispus Allen, and then the Black Spider would come along, so Allen would shoot the Black Spider in self-defense, but then Jim Corrigan would find the bullet that the Black Spider was shot with and then would sell it on the internet. But the thing is, that bullet was needed to prove that the shot was in self-defense. Montoya would go on a hunt after the bullet, and she would beat the name of the buyer of the bullet out of Jim Corrigan, so Jim Corrigan would retaliate by killing Crispus Allen. Renee would retaliate to this by tracking down Jim Corrigan, beating up his girlfriend, and then going to shoot him. But as she's standing there, about to pull the trigger, she realizes she can't do it. After this, she decides to quit the Gotham City Police Department because she is disgusted by her actions and thinks she no longer deserves to work there. So by the time 52 came about, she would be an alcoholic ex-ally of justice who obsessed about all of her losses and nothing else. But one day the Question would shine a modified bat symbol at her, asking her if she is ready. He is hiring her to help him go after Intergang. He believes Intergang are planning to take over Gotham, so the two of them go to a warehouse where they find a whole bunch of weapons. They would then fly to Kandak to get some more leads on Intergang, and after leaving an empty warehouse there, they would be imprisoned by Black Adam's army. While a prisoner, Renee actually stops a bomb from going off during Black Adam and Isis's wedding. Thanks to this, Black Adam releases both Renee Montoya and the Question and bestows upon them the highest honor that a person not born in Kandak can get. Next, they track down Intergang and they find that the gang are torturing children so they become operatives. And here they find Amon Tomaz, Isis's brother. The Question would then take Renee Montoya to Nanda Parbat, where she would train with Richard Dragon. Turns out that the Question is dying of cancer and he wants her to replace him. But then the two of them would find out that the crime Bible speaks of the death of Batwoman, so both the Question and Renee have to hightail it back to Gotham to go back to fighting Intergang. Later on, the Question would be in hospital, and Renee would not leave his side, and she eventually decides to take him back to Nanda Parbat so they can finish what they started. On the way to the city, the Question wakes up one more time and tells Renee that she has to choose who she will become, and then he passes away. In Nanda Parbat, Renee is struggling with the concept of becoming the new Question. That's such a big deal. And Richard Dragon tells her that she has to accept her grief before she's going to become anyone else. Renee runs off and finds a woman. This woman tells her to find the answers to her questions inside of herself. So Renee goes to meditate. And as she's meditating, her candle goes out, leaving her in darkness. And she stays like this for 4 days. After 4 long days in darkness, she would light a candle once again and see her reflection in ice. And she would see herself with no face. Feeling more powerful than ever, she goes back to Gotham to find that Kate is missing. So with the help of Nightwing, she is going after Kate now. Renee would go after Bruno Mannheim, and she would find Mannheim and Whisper Adieu about to use Kate as a sacrifice. Renee is able to set Whisper on fire, but she is almost killed by Mannheim, and if it wasn't thanks to Kate getting up, pulling a knife outside of herself, and stabbing Mannheim with it, Renee would have died. And after this, Kate collapses in Renee's arms. At the end of all of this, Renee would shine a light into Kate's apartment and would say, "Are you ready?" Later on, she'll be going after the Crime Bible once again and would actually withstand its owner's attempts to convert her to their cause. But then in Final Crisis, it would be revealed that she was going after the Dark Side Club. She has an appearance in Final Crisis Revelations, and here she encounters the Spectre, who tells her she is about to receive her judgment and is saved by Radiance, the spirit of mercy. It would later be confirmed that the entire Gotham City Police Department has been brainwashed by Darkseid, and Radiant wants to make sure that Renee is immune to the anti-life equation. Then in Final Crisis, she would traverse the multiverse, gathering alternate versions of Superman to help save New Earth, and she would go by the title Global Peace Agent. Now this is very interesting because the original Global Peace Agents were in the original OMAC series, and they were all faceless as well. Her next adventure was something that's very, very real. It's something that does actually happen in this world. She would be going after an illegal immigrant's younger sister, the younger sister of a man named Hector Solis. She follows some leads and finds some pornographic pictures of this young girl, meaning this young child has either become involved with child pornography or a sex slave ring. She instantly suspects a businessman, and while going after him, she is beaten, put into the trunk of a car and tied up, and then driven into a river. She is fortunately able to escape and then finds all the slaves on a boat owned by that very businessman. After a few quick fights with some henchmen, all the women would be saved and Hector would be reunited with his younger sister. In Blackest Night, Renee would end up fighting Lady Shiva. Lady Shiva wants to test Renee to make sure she is worthy of holding the mantle of the Question. And as the two of them are fighting, the previous Question would turn up and would begin to attack the two of them as a Black Lantern. Renee is quick to realize that if she turns off her emotions, the Black Lantern can't do anything to her. So she turns off her emotions and the Question flies off to find easier targets. After this, Lady Shiva reveals that she never really wanted to test Renee for anything, but she knew if she attacked her, she would get to face the Question one more time. Now the next thing is kind of major but kind of not major depending on how you look at it. Basically what happens is Renee teams up with the Huntress to go after Vandal Savage to stop his human trafficking network. And this storyline is kind of important for a number of reasons. Number 1, Renee would find out that Oracle is actually Commissioner Gordon's daughter. Not because of detective work or anything, but because Oracle would literally reveal herself to Renee. And number 2, Renee would stop the human trafficking network, but to do this, she had to take on the Mark of Cain, which kind of disfigured her face permanently. Now this is debatably important because Richard Dragon would actually teach Renee to suppress the mark through her own mental willpower. Then upon Batman's return to the 21st century, Bruce Wayne sets up Batman Incorporated, and Batman would send her over to Paris to infiltrate the Golden Portal, which was a cult that was responsible for a number of murders. She lets herself be kidnapped by the cult and brainwashed into joining, but she reverses the brainwashing by using a number of mental techniques that both Victor and Richard Dragon taught her. Then, with the help of Batman and Night Runner, a French vigilante, the Golden Portal is shut down and its leader is arrested. And then the New 52, where she was planned to appear in Batman Eternal, but then the creative team behind Batman Eternal decided that wouldn't be for the best because they don't want to do anything small time with her character, which is fair enough. I loved that we had a lesbian character where it didn't matter that she was a lesbian, like there was more to her. I would like to see her come back soon, if not in her own series, in the Batwoman series at very least. That would be a lot of fun. There's just so many things that you can do with Renee as a character. She is a pillar in the Batman mythos at this point. She's one of the few people to hold the mantle of the Question, and I personally think she rocked it better than anyone else. She's also one of the few characters out there who can fight both regular villains and the supernatural and be involved with sci-fi, and it all works perfectly. I would love to write her one day. She's definitely my top 10 favorite characters of all time, and she's like my number 3 favorite LGBT character, number 2 being Wiccan and number 1 being Batwoman.
It's super effective!
Okay guys, that is it for today. If you think I've got anything majorly important about Renee Montoya, please let me know in the comments down below. And also don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more history videos. And also don't forget to like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, support the show by checking out my Patreon so I can make bigger and better history videos. And also don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel. My name is Faust, this has been Exploring Comics, and it is super effective.